Welcome, everybody, to VFX and Chill. Today, you might have noticed that our Season 4 intro was the same as the exciting intro we had last week. I was in the middle of building an exciting new intro for this week to go along with one of my themes, which is to show off a cool animation tool that I have for anybody who does 2D or 2.5D animation compositing. I have a fun little tool that I'm going to demonstrate for you all. But did not get around to finishing our bizarre conquest to have a unique intro every week. But I will finish it off because I'm excited with where it's going. But today I'm going to show off this thing, which hopefully I can switch over to sharing my screen now. Hopefully you can all see my lovely After Effects setup now. And these two, this saber-toothed tiger and this... I don't know, Ankylosaurus or whatever they're called. Anyway, I wanted to show off a cool thing. If you've ever worked in the world of 2D animation compositing before, one of the weird situations you can get into is you'll have animation that comes in on ones, which means if your animation is 24 frames per second, that you have one new frame per frame. It's on ones. But sometimes you might do things on twos, which means you're playing every frame for 2 frames at a time. And this would definitely matter if you're doing like an action sequence or something, or there's some complicated movement. You might want to animate that on ones. But if somebody's standing still and just talking, you might force their body to just 2s or 3s or any kind of hold and some variable things like that. So one of the weird issues that I noticed was that you might have something like this. So let me just solo this animation. This is all faked, I guess, but here's the idea. So here's a little animated sequence, tiger jumping around fighting this thing. Parts of this are like 1 frame per frame. Parts of it are 2 frames playing in a row, but the point is it's variable. So you can see as I step through the frames, it's holding, and then it advances, then it holds, advances, hold, advance. And it's variable. It's not like it's exactly 12 frames per second the whole time. And so one of the weird issues you can get into when you're trying to composite additional digital components into some kind of traditional animation pipeline like this is you might know what the camera movement is that you use as the reference for this 2D animation. And here I have this checkerboard to kind of represent what that could look like. But you'll see as I press play, the ground is moving completely smoothly, but the characters are a little bit stuttery. And you get into this weird situation where if the background is updating every frame, you'll get these moments where the background is sliding and then they're holding still, and then you get this mismatch, this kind of stuttery feel, which is a little bit annoying. And so what I have here is this exciting little script right here called the Animation Frame Detector. And if any of you would like it, I have it right here. Yes. Available at this lovely link right here. So if you'd like to try it out, bit.ly frame detect, or you can scan this QR code at some point. I'll make it nice and big like that for a moment. All right, enough of that. Back over to this animation thing. Here is what this silly little script does. I'm going to solo down to just my animation layer, and you highlight that layer, whichever has your animation on it, and in this case, it's these 2 guys fighting, and like I said, it's variable frame rate. So if I click on this button, identify unique frames, it should run pretty simply. So nothing super obvious yet, but here's what's happened. Whenever there is a new frame, I put this little indicator up that says, this is a new frame. And then if I step forward, this is not a new frame, not a new frame, not a new frame. And then this is a new frame. And so as you go through, it identifies each new frame, which is kind of cool. So that way you can kind of have some kind of reference as to when this image changes. But that's just the detector feature of it. So that takes this whole piece of footage, and what it's doing is it's comparing every frame to the frame before it, figuring out, based on a tolerance of a difference between the two frames, if it's a repeat of the same frame or if it's a new frame. And so then, this took a little while to figure out. I've created this exciting thing, which is create a posterize adjustment layer. So if I click that, you will now add this adjustment layer right here called the frame rate matcher. And now I'm going to unsolo everything, and so we can see, whoops, it's hiding layers actively, so I'm going to do that. So here we go. So now we have this top level adjustment layer up here, and what it's going to do is when there's a new frame followed by a repeat frame, it will actually hold everything in frame. So notice now that as I frame forward, the ground plane is only advancing when the animation advances. All crazy automatically, which is pretty cool. So this could be a variable frame rate. You could have as many holds as you wanted. And now when I play through, the background and the ground plane only move if the animation is moving on that frame. So you'll notice that now their feet are a lot more locked to whatever position they're in because they're only updating every so often. And this is something that I wish that I had thought of when we were doing tons of this kind of work at DreamWorks. And so that's a fun little, that's basically the gist of what the script does. One of the exciting things that I got to use for this script that I'd never really played with for this purpose before was on this adjustment layer. I'm using, you'll notice there's this little, this is just a slider value that I'm pulling from when you run the frame detector. It's either a 0 when there's a new frame or 1 when it's a repeat frame. And based on that number that switches back and forth to kind of identify what's going on, I have a time warp effect. And the time warp effect is sourcing a whole frame, and it adjusts the time that it shows the whole screen based on a source frame number. And this source frame number has a little expression in it. And this expression is basically look at the last several frames up to the last 24 frames and check what the indicator value was. How many times did the frame change during that? And if it sees that it's, as soon as it realizes there's a change, it plays that live frame of everything. And then as long as it's giving you a repeat frame, it holds on that frame minus however many frames until it sees a new frame, which is pretty cool. I was trying to do this a while ago with linking variable slider to a posterized time, but unfortunately, the way posterized time would work is that it starts from whatever your frame 0 is and uses that as the basis for its count the whole way through. So you'll get repeat frames and it'll jump back and show previous frames. But time warp, as Frigby Chillweather mentions, it's just a jump to the left or a jump to the right. That's as much of the song as I'm going to try to talk through. Ooh, and it looks like we have an incoming transmission from Michael Zalapsky. I sure hope it's a relevant Tip Tuesday.
Hello, Michael Zalapsky here for Tip Tuesday.
Yes.
And today we're going to be talking about moving particles on 2s in Tropico particular, but with the camera and everything else still animating on 1s. Animating on 2s was made popular again recently by Spider-Verse. You can see here in After Effects when I move a frame forward, particular only updates every other frame. This is mimicking the old school way of making animations where you only had to draw half the animations by making the image change only every 2 frames. Make sure you've got your all systems viewing so you can see global controls, all systems, and the key is a physics time factor. I've got a pre-run on here, so we have particles on frame 0, and the time factor is set to 2. We will set a keyframe for that. This just means that it runs the simulation twice as fast, as if time is going by, twice as quickly. So the keys will set a keyframe for it at the beginning, where we want it, go forward a frame, press 0, which means particles will now freeze in place. You'll see here, even with the camera moving, the particles are not moving at all, which is useful for freeze time effects. But right now, we want to make the animation then move again. The reason I've got the physics time factor set to 2 is that every other frame it's going to be 0. So 2 means it'll keep moving at roughly the same speed. So it'll freeze here and then move double time to get to this frame, then freeze double time. So in effect, you end up with single time. So we've got our 3 keyframes. Now, if you're going to be making it hold on 3s or on 4s or some other variable, you're going to want to make these hold keyframes and space them out. But as it is, this will work since we're only doing it on 2s. Alt-click or Option-click on Mac to add an expression, and we'll just say loop out, and we'll say the type of loop out cycle. That means it'll loop through these keyframes over and over again. So you'll see the value here goes on 2, then 0, 2, 0, 2, 0. So there you go. That's how to animate Tropical Particular on 2s or 3s or 4s while the camera move is still smooth and moving around your particular system. If you have any other questions or any other tips you'd like to see, let us know in the comments below.
I knew that it was possible that particular would be one of the things that you'd be using with this crazy frame rate matcher situation. So if you do have the posterized time adjustment layer, then it doesn't really matter. It's automatically posterizing any effects you have, including particular, below it. But say you're doing something like a character is supposed to emit little, particle trails, and it's on 2s, you can follow Michael's advice. And if it's a variable frame rate, you don't need this adjustment layer. You can actually, just from here, if you've already run the identify unique frames, you can say push to particular only. And I note here in this description that it'll apply an expression to the physics time factor in particular, but this will reduce the particle count, which is kind of bizarre. So I'll say push to particular only, and you'll see that down here on my particular layer, it's added this lovely, it really is just the indicator value divided by 100 is pushed to the physics time factor. And so basically if it's playing a new frame, then it'll play it here, which is kind of cool. But because it's every now and then not emitting for a full frame, you actually do get fewer total particles over time, because it's like you're halving the opportunities for new particles to spawn. So if that's not your desired effect, then you can remove that effect, leave it at 1, and just stick with the top level posterized frame, which will match your animation. And Ryan has asked, whatever happened to that 3D plane stamp 2.0? What likely happened is we went on summer break and I probably never got it properly updated to people. Does that sound about right? Since you've got me on the hook, I might as well try to see if I can pull it up of the 3D plane stamp 2.0, and then I can pass that out to you all, because y'all deserve it. You've been waiting a long time. There you are, everybody. The long-awaited updated 3D plane stamp. Since we're sharing that link, I'll show a little example of what that script does. All right, so the way the 3D plane stamp tool works is you might have a piece of footage like this, and you will take your After Effects 3D camera tracker and run it on that piece of footage, and you get some nice tracking points like that. Now, one of the natural things that I would always want to do is to be able to take these 3D tracking points, find maybe a section like this door or something like that, and I'll just find a nice little frame and say, I kind of want this area, and then I can right click and say create a solid, and that will create a little solid for me right here. And once I have that solid, I could take it and kind of align it in the direction that I want, and then I'll run that new version of the script here called 3D Plane Stamp 2.0. Formats itself a little bit weird. I don't know why that is. It's like this wasn't made by an expert. The way 3D plane stamp works is you now click on this 3D tracking solid, and there are several options. There's a still PNG version, which is the fastest, and if you're just doing something for the web or something really straightforward, this is what I would recommend. You just press the 3D stamp button, and it'll think for just a second and re-import a little PNG in place of the solid that was there. And what's neat about this PNG is it's the texture of whatever that video frame was. So now that is right there, 3D tracked into your scene. So it's 3D tracked right behind the guy right there. So one of the issues that we were running into is that we realized that this was a nice HD comp. It was at 8-bit, and that's what I tested the script with, but a lot of people were working with a lot better footage than this. 4K footage and higher depth rates, and this was exporting a PNG because that was the easiest way to save something. There's actually a function in After Effects to export a PNG directly from the composition, bypassing the render queue entirely. But there isn't for anything higher than a PNG, so you can't do like a TIFF or anything with a higher depth rate. And so we built in this HQ delay in case you're working with higher resolutions, but still want to use a PNG. But then another option we came up with was, we'll just repeat the process basically. Instead of a still PNG, you could say a still pre-comp. And if I say still pre-comp and then press the 3D plane stamp button, it functions just like before. It looks like you're getting this little layer here, but instead of a rasterized PNG, this is actually a pre-comp of all of your stuff unstretched here. So it'll preserve whatever your project depth rate is and everything. In this case, it's still the 8-bit, but if you had, 32-bit, or if it was log footage or something weird like that, you'd have all of that ported nicely back into here, preserving the color space. And then the experimental mode has this live pre-comp button right here. So I'll delete the previous pre-comp, show this solid again. And what live pre-comp does is kind of what you would guess. It's a lot like the still pre-comp, but it'll look like nothing is happening, right? And that's because this piece of footage is being updated with the texture that you would see from this angle of this footage. But if you were at some other weird angle like this, you can kind of see that what's happening is it's doing this kind of reverse lockdown bit of just that piece of footage and sticking it right onto that cube. So you'll see that as the camera is moving out of it, there's no data to show there, but it feels a lot like if you're doing a 4-point lockdown of this piece of footage that is not like that. Everything is moving in this piece of footage, but this little pre-comp has everything nicely locked down. So if you see the pre-comp here and you scroll through it, it's holding relatively still. So if you wanted to use this pre-comp to say, like, add something in here that says, I don't know, enter or something like that, you could put a little text layer here in this pre-comp, and then when you jump back over into your alley sample, it's projected onto the wall right there. Isn't that cute? Anyway, that's 3D plane stamp, everybody. Double check with how everybody in the chat is doing. Yay or Ye by Design is saying, thank you for being in Hashi. Really love seeing the master at work. Was wondering if you guys could cover tracking natively in Cinema 4D. No, I will not. Actually, no, that's definitely something that we could do. So tracking in Cinema 4D, which I feel like I might demonstrate poorly here. Let's see. Let's try it out here. So here's how it works. Right up here in the top menu, you can go to the tracker menu here, and you can say motion tracker. That puts this motion tracker object right here into your project. And you'll see that down here in the attributes, there's a, maybe you won't because of my face. Let me see. There's this little footage section. And I can click on the footage folder right there. And let me load up one of those demo pieces of footage that I was using in the last thing. All right, so here's this parkour piece of footage. It's actually broken up into a TIFF sequence. You could load up a piece of footage as well into here, but I'm going to work with the TIFF sequence just for a nice, clean frame-by-frame reading. So I've loaded in that just by clicking on the very first one. And now down here, you'll notice that it kind of automatically gathered that it was frame 0 through frame 176, which is great. So I believe that if I start scrolling through here, now you have Cinema 4D with footage in it. And isn't that lovely? It's simple, straightforward. And now there are a couple of different things you need to do. There is the 2D tracking. And what 2D tracking means is it's basically what all tracking software does. It looks for high contrast points. It's going to try to do about 300 random points that are minimally spaced about 19 pixels apart. And it's going to try to auto track that. So basically, it's going to do a 2D track of all of these little points to try to come up with a nice little flow diagram. I'm just going to go ahead and say auto track forward and backward. And you'll see down here, it's thinking through that. Processing. And here we are. So now as I scroll through, you can see that it's tracked about 300 little points kind of throughout this piece of footage. And as I step through the frames, it's sort of recorded where they are. Now, this isn't the 3D track. These are all literally existing in 2D space. And so what happens next is you want to move from this 2D tracking that you've done and make sure that you kind of like what's going on. And I generally like what's going on. I like that there are points in the areas that seem to be moving. They seem to be generally tracking properly with the motion of the camera. If I were to look at any specific point, it looks like it's tracing it nicely. And if that all feels fine, that's wonderful. If you see these weird little errant ones that sort of are going off track, you're welcome to highlight and delete these kind of like jaggedy ones. Like this one probably got confused maybe by the reflection here, maybe by the character's head moving through frames. So I could click on that point and delete it for higher accuracy or whatever. And you can do that to your heart's content, depending on how complicated your track is. The next thing you're going to do is switch over to the 3D solver. And here is where the 3D-ness is going to come from. So now that you've already run your 2D tracking and it has those points to reference, you click over to 3D solve and can say, run the 3D solver on this. And now it's going to think for a little while. You can see down here in the bottom corner that it is running through to create, to try to look at all these points and see if it can come up with a 3D solution for all of them. So I think are we done? That's great. It's output this solved camera now. So if I switch from the solved camera to a different default camera, you can see that now all of my points are actually being projected in 3D. And from this view here, I can see that this is what it believes the camera is doing. Fun, right? And this one worked out exceptionally well. It worked really well because there's a lot of environment and not a whole lot of subject interference. So if you were to look at the density of this little point cloud, it's basically like our little recreation of the side of the building and that little ramp and little things that stick out like that. So you have all of these lovely reference points. And here's where I get a little bit out of my depth in terms of knowing how to properly place things. I know that I can grab the location of any of these tracked points, but there are ways that you can select 3 of them and identify a plane and things like that. And I'm less familiar with how to do that. Michael is probably just screaming at me through Skype, but that's all right. This is where I'm going to get you. One fun thing that you could do from this point is you can always save this as a Cinema 4D project and then export it to After Effects too to work with the same data here. And After Effects will do the same thing if I was working with this 3D tracked piece of footage. Like I think that I might even have it in here. You can do vice versa. If you're more comfortable tracking in After Effects, you could take this 3D track and say File, Export, Cinema 4D Exporter. And what you'll get on the other end is, I'll just open this up here. Script from Nate, 3D stuff, and parkour sample. So check it out. Here is the same little piece with, it's not updating frame by frame for this, so you'll have to ignore that a little bit. I'm going to turn off the background for a second because it's confusing. But here, it actually has my 3D plane stamped pieces of footage and the After Effects tracked camera right into here, which is pretty cool. And you'll notice that if I switch to a default camera, this After Effects tracking camera probably looks pretty similar to the one that I got in Cinema 4D also, if I highlight that and look at its camera path. So yeah, those two came out pretty similar. It's a nice little question mark shaped thing. So there's two exciting ways to share data between two programs. Michael is mentioning in my own chat here that there's also a a reconstruction tool. So you can use basically a point cloud of your scene to try to recreate something. If you've nicely motion tracked something that, especially if it has no obscuration things running through it. Look at this. All of this lovely detail, all available here on the Maxon, the help.maxon.net, which is accessible probably from any of these tools if you just right-click on them here and say, hey, show me the help on what the solved camera is all about. And now I can learn even more about things. Look at that. This reminds me a little bit of when you work in retail, you're an expert at anything if you can read the box faster than the customer can. And that's how you become an expert at everything in your store. Retail tips from Hashi. Anyway, we're having fun, right? If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Otherwise, I am probably just going to continue goofing off in this bizarre manner where I somehow am both with and not with my friends. I feel so bad that Michael is tuned in from the airport, and while he can speak live on the show, cannot hear it. It's the darndest thing.
The show, and I'm looking forward for some potential spooky things to talk about.
All right, spooky things Michael is requesting. I like that your connection, since it only comes up properly when I switch over to this scene, you're like, it's like that, isn't there a movie where there's a guy who's Dennis Quaid or someone's dead in a radio? I don't know. Anyway, that's what it reminds me of, like hearing signals from beyond. So with that in mind, I think that it would be fun to try to create something spooky since it is a Friday the 13th. I would love suggestions as to what could be a fun and spooky thing to try to do if you're curious about anything in particular. And if not, I am likely going to just dive into messing with Cinema 4D's exciting world of physics sims and things like that, because they are a great way to get a lot of organic, free animation out of using simulations to your benefit. Speaking of simulations, our Business Daddy Nemechek group is celebrating 60 years together and wanted some little token of excitingness. And so I can share that with you all here. But don't spoil it for the people at the Nemechek 60th anniversary party. That's how we do it. That's how we like to celebrate here. So the end of this, I got to use one of my favorite things that you can do in cinema, which is this inflation thing. Now, E.J. Hassenfratz has been doing some amazing things with inflation. So no one loves inflation like E.J. Hassenfratz is what I always say. So we got our Maxon logo. It converts over to some like more rainbowy colored versions and then inflate like little balloons until they pop against each other. Spreading this lovely, it's so happy. It's so fun, right? So let's go ahead and turn that off for now and switch over to this window. I'm going to place myself a little bit, where should I place myself in cinema? Place myself right here down in the corner. I can watch all the fun activities, but you can still see the attributes panel if you're zoomed in. So let's close down this. Let's close down this. And then we're going to dive into Cinema 4D. I'm assuming that the chat is being quiet at the moment. That, or I've lost touch with the chat again, and it's still where it is. Make some noise if you're in there. Let me know what's up and what is the scariest movie you saw at a young age that was probably too young to have seen said movie. And in the meantime, I'm going to go over here into my object panel, and I'm going to hold down on text, and I'm going to create a 3D bit of text right here, just like that. And let's say, I know, let's just do the word boo, right? I mean, that's kind of scary, right? All right. Now, what's neat is about this new text tool is that, I mean, it's been around for a little while, but instead of having to create a text spline and then extruding it and stuff like that, you can just create 3D text right from the get-go like this. Now, one thing that's kind of weird about text, if you wanted to convert it into a cloth and inflate it into balloons, you'd probably want something like a ground plane under it. And let's add a few colors in here just for fun. I'm going to switch. I'm going to switch to standard rendering right now instead of Redshift, just because I've been having a day, you know. So let's put this material on the ground, and we'll say maybe that's I don't know, some kind of nice contrasty ground color, and then on these letters here, we'll do a simple ghosty white color kind of thing. I'm going to raise them up off the ground a little bit like that. And then if I wanted to, I could just say simulation tags, make this cloth, and then press play. And if I do that, it'll fall straight through the ground there. But if I had remembered to go to the plane before that and gone to simulation tags and say, this is a collider, then I could press play. And you'll notice that letters collapse like that, which is pretty cute, like little Jello jigglers or something like that. But I want something a little bit more exciting. And in the cloth simulation tag right here, I'm going to move my face out of the way so I can look right over here at these lovely properties of my cloth surface. I can go over to balloon and check balloon, yes, and then say I would like it to overinflate, like by a factor of 3 in 30 frames. And if I press play, I'll get sort of what we got in that other thing, but I'll show you a few things that I would recommend first. So I can press inflate, and they're going to try to inflate, and that one goes flying off in this weird direction. It's kind of wild. One of the reasons why they're doing this bizarro thing is if I press NB, it can reveal basically all of what my wireframe looks like. Now, when you're extruding text to begin with, it doesn't feel like it really needs a lot of subdivision because it's assuming you're just doing a logo or something like that. But if this is the structure of something that you're going to try to inflate like a balloon, it's making the whole face just one big n-gon, and that's kind of confusing for it. It's not very pretty. So what I'm going to do is instead of just accepting this kind of shape, I want them to be a little bit more balloon-like. Now, there is the subdivision slider in the text properties right here, but that doesn't do anything about the letter faces really. So what I've been enjoying doing is knowing that if I want something to inflate like a balloon, that it would be better if it had a really nicely wrapped bit of geometry around it. So I've been a big fan of the volume mesher and the volume builder. So they work in tandem. So I can throw in a volume builder like this, and then I can throw, I can either drag my text up into the volume builder, and you'll see it makes this nice little volume out of it, which is pretty cool. Oh, let's see. Oh, so you can add, Michael is mentioning, Ghost Michael, that you can add some geometry to the face of the text. Let me see. Is it here in... So using the cap... Oh, it's under the caps section here. So let's see. So... Oh, so there we go. That's pretty nice. Look at that. I can add some geometry like this, and then I could go to my object and maybe do some subdivisions. Hey, that's a pretty, here, this is a pretty decent looking thing. I love that. Look at that. And now watch the difference between this overinflation and the previous version. Watch. Now we got some little inner tubes, and that's exciting. Now, what worked the best were the O's, and that's what I was looking at with the division. Because, like, look at that division; it's really great. The B, on the other hand, has this issue of not enough things again. So that's again where we want to get back to this volume builder idea. So, say we had some letters like this. The volume builder you can either drag an object into if you don't really care about it anymore, or you can leave it out here in the open and select your volume builder and say, hey, I want this text to be a part of this without having to move it here. So either way, you can do it. This way, it keeps this piece preserved, and you can hide that and just stick with the volume builder. So if you see what I've done, I've hidden this text, even though in the volume builder, it's referring to the text as a shape to bring in. Now, you can set the voxel count. Right now it's or the voxel size. Right now it was at 10 centimeters. I can set it down to something like 5. And I'll get this sort of like rounded, voxely looking thing. And I might start with a number like that and throw this volume builder inside of a volume mesher like this. And now look at that. We're sort of back to the original shape, but look at the distribution now of all of our points. It's very handy. I like that. So that's just straight coming from the volume builder at this voxel setting and the volume mesher there. And then if you wanted to go another step further, what's fun about the volume mesher is that you can set the threshold range. So if it were down, it would make things skinnier, down to where you're basically getting nothing. Or you could turn it up, and it's sort of like inflating it. So it's this fun marshmallowing of the letters like that. And now they've got a lot of little points like that. And if I were to drag that balloon tag up to the volume mesher, I can press play on this. And now you'll see, now everything is properly acting the way we had hoped, like a nice little like inner tube or something like that with some nice distribution of all the points. And one of the coolest things about having Pixelogic on board with all of this stuff is that inside of Cinema, we actually have the power of their remesher tool. So if I wanted to, I could even put this volume mesher inside of the remesh tool. And look at this. This is beautiful. This is absurd. I do not know if I'm seeing no new comments, and so I'm guessing that once again my comment stream has shut off. That or everybody is just stunned into silence by this amazing presentation. So you can see that the remesh tool has created these beautiful, beautiful divisions of everything like that. So now everything is very, very nicely round. If I were to put the balloon tag on this, I'm now getting like the most ideal version of this, as if these were all on like an equally spaced kind of cloth being affected by that, which is really, really fun. And it's also technically all non-destructive. It's this text layer informing the volume builder, informing the mesher, informing the remesher. And on top of all this, if you're ever working with text, you could technically always in the remesh tool go to check this symmetric in Z button if you wanted to. It might have actually technically been symmetric already, but since front to back I wanted symmetric, I can check that. And now this will have these perfectly wrapped UVs all around them, which is really, really cool. So now these are even more evenly spaced. And if you had some letters, like I just did it for the word Maxon, and almost all of the letters except for the N are both symmetric in X and in Z, which is really cool. And in Y, if you're talking about like the O and stuff like that. So for me, I assume that the more symmetric I can make these curves, just the better they're going to work when they're going into a simulation mode, just because you know that they'll behave the same way on the front and the back. So here we go. We've got this remesh balloon situation going on here, and checking in. Oh, let's see. All right. Oh my goodness, I'm. This is the jankiest setup, but I'm getting screenshots of your lovely comments from Michael the Ghost in the Machine, sending me stuff, and I do have to call out the amazing Justin Leduc with Booleans is what I should have called these. Ridiculous, Justin. All right, so let's go into our overpressure settings, and I'm going to turn them up to like 10. But I'm going to set the expansion time to a little bit longer. Let's say it takes 113 frames, and I'll expand my timeline a little bit like that. And now these should go a little bit crazy. Let's see. Yeah. Look at that. Inflate, then go wild like that. But one fun thing that like a real balloon would do is it's not going to take all of that abuse from being blown up like that. There's probably going to be a point at which its surface will tear. So if I enable cloth tearing, saying that if it's stretched past like 500%, it will tear, then I can get this kind of fun effect. Inflate, 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 and oh, it didn't quite get there. I guess I'll need to make the tolerance a little bit lower. Okay, if it gets past 250%, we'll say, and play. Oh, that was too soon. Sorry. Let's see. Let's try. It's almost fun to try to figure out where's the perfect point for this. Let's try 400% is where they will pop. I'll press play. It'll inflate, inflate, and then at some point when they get too big, they should. Oh my gosh, it's not. It's somewhere in between there. Let's try 350 as the pop moment, or the tearing moment. And now, boom. And they tear and they burst back down into this little thing like that. Now, one of the issues here, and one of the reasons why I'm getting everything kind of like contracting and falling back down into little shapes like that, is because I am using this kind of non-destructive workflow where it's a volume mesher and the remesher and everything like that before it becomes cloth. But if I'm in love with these lovely subdivisions, which I am, I could also take this remesh and say current state to object, just have this nice remesh object out here and drag it actually copied the balloon thing right over to it already. So I'm going to hide this other remesh and everything like that and just use my, not rasterized, can you say rasterized in 3D? My converted to geometry version of the letters here. I'm going to add the cloth tearing to them. I'm going to say balloon overpressure is going to go up to, let's see, I want the overpressure to be 10, and I want the surface to tear if it gets past 300%. Whoops. And now that this is solid geometry, I think that I will get a cooler result from the tearing engine. Whoops. If, that is if. What do we got here? I don't need that. Cloth, balloon. All right, do your thing, man. Boom. Those were slightly disappointing tears. I don't like that. Okay. Simulation tags. I'm going to start from scratch. Let's do a balloon. Let's overpressure it. And on the surface, let's say cloth tearing. Tear past 171. And let's press play. That's kind of boring. It's like a flat tire. It might be that I'm trying to do this use the balloon as the way to drive the tearing instead of something else. Let me see. Out of curiosity, if I were to add a simulation force like some maybe an attractor, and I'll put the attractor right here in the middle of the letters, and I'll actually set its strength to a negative value. What would happen? Nothing. That was weak. Weak. Or let's see. Michael did recommend a good point, which is that instead of using the just checking the cloth tearing button, I could actually go to my MoGraph tool here, I think, and then I can go to MoGraph weight paintbrush here. Let me just switch back to not having to see that stuff anymore. And let me see if can I paint on it? What am I trying to do? I'm trying to use the weight tool. No, not MoGraph. What am I doing? Oh, is it the weight tool in character? What am I trying to do? Oh, Michael is uploading me files now. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Let's see what Michael's got. Oh, look at that. Ooh, I like the... What on earth? Look at this. Oh, I deleted my vertex map tag a second ago. That's a cool effect. So what have we here? We have the text spline being extruded, volume builder, and up here we have the balloon surface and this cool random field pushing everything around. And then let's see, what have we here? What does this do, Michael? Yes. Oh, it's gnarly. I love it. Wait, let's find a good angle for this. Ka-ching, ka-ching. Oh, look at this. It's like the Terminator's face. And I love this. This is great. Oh, yeah, I can just drag. I love what little gummy bears these look like with all of this going on. Whoops. Sorry. I broke it. Yes. You wanted spooky. And Michael, you delivered. I love this. In the meantime, I'm going to switch over and try to see if I can find. I miss getting to see all the comments with everybody. All right, now I can at least sort of see some of these. Excellent. Oh my gosh. Okay, it is so fun that y'all are still sticking here with this very ridiculous stream where we are messing around and have just the most ridiculous technical issues going on. Anyway, I'm having a lot of fun with all of that stuff. Okay, let's see. I think something that we were playing with last week was using the volume builder as a way to put a mesh on top of a pyro object to get like goo and stuff dripping. And I feel like that could be a cool effect that you could get out of this kind of a thing. Let me see. I'll close that. And let's do a new one of these. And let's see, what's a spooky word that we could use? How about like I don't know. Blood. Very spooky. Let's pick a better font here. Fine, whatever. Let's do that. Let's put this in, let's roughly do the, split up the caps a little bit. Make these round. Excellent. Gross, silly, whatever. And I'm afraid, guys, I'm still switching my stuff to standard. All right, let's make this some gross red blood with a, yeah, so spooky. All right, so we've got that going, and then right here, I'll right-click on that and go to Pyro Fuel, or actually not Pyro Fuel, Pyro Emitter. Simulation tags, Pyro Emitter. And then here in the Pyro object, I'll go to my Pyro scene, I'll turn on the density and temperature, and in the scene settings, I'm going to go to the Pyro simulation and its buoyancy, and I'll turn that to like 2 on that and 2 on temperature. And if I press play, it's going to look like these little letters are sort of on fire. Oh, that didn't do what I thought. Oh, I forgot. I guess the density buoyancy was correct, but the temperature buoyancy needs to be negative, right? Yeah, that's what we need. There we go. So now we have this inverse fire blood letters, right? But what this is really going to become after all of this is in the Pyro scene, I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to say uncheck draw Pyro. So if I were back at the beginning, you'll see this, and I'm going to hide that there. I have draw Pyro turned off. And then I'm going to add a volume mesher and put the Pyro output inside of it. And now I've got this ridiculous thing. And we'll put the, let's see. Oh, I can lose the temperature entirely, Michael is telling me. So maybe here in my Pyro object itself, I'm going to just turn off temperature and just stick with density. You are my density. Ew, gross. All right, let's see. Let's go to my Pyro emitter here and let's see what it's adding a lot of density to it. So I turn that down to 5. Okay, not quite what I was hoping for. Temperature add. Temperature set. What if I turn those down? This looks a little bit like popcorn or something like that. Let's see, I'll turn down the thickness of the actual letters here. Ooh, now we're maybe getting somewhere. I better put my blood red on them already. Okay, now I think in my pyro output, I could go to the scene here, and let's go to the density dissipation and turn that up a little bit so the density dissipates a little bit sooner. Here we go. This is what I was kind of after. And you know what I could throw into this is I could throw in a, let's see, I'll just put some smoothing in here. Oh yeah, there we go. Maybe too much smoothing. Okay, pyro, let's turn the dissipation down a little bit more again. Gosh, it's so weird. It's just the... Oh yeah, we do need a floor object in here, don't we? Okay, so let's put a floor in here, and let's say simulation tags, collider object. So now we can have this floor under here, except it's too small of a floor. It can't get all the blood. Make it wider. There we go. Okay, this is pretty fun. Oh, that's so weird. And if I went to the volume mesher, to the pyro output and played with the voxel size, you could get different effects. Like if I turned it down to voxel size of 3, you'll get even extra like weird little details like that. And I could play with the temperature. Let's see, I'm not dealing with the temperature at all now, right? So it's just the density. So if I turn that value down, I should get heavier looking blood, I think. So yeah. So pyro is definitely still trying to do a volumetric, like a fire kind of simulation. It wants the density of these to be able to spread and dissipate as if they were a gas. So this is definitely tricking it into doing something that it's not meant for. But since I don't have another liquid solution in here, I really do like getting to use this to simulate some of the weird things that I want to try. Here's that. Let me play with the... and I mean, you could even have the buoyancy be a negative number. Wait, am I doing the wrong thing now? Oh, positive number. Like it was before. Why aren't I getting flowing up blood now? We'll never know. We'll never know. All right. See, oh yeah, you could definitely scale the noise that's in here to get some different effects here. So let's see. With the where's our noise? Okay, turbulence. We've got the advanced temperature. Turn the scale up of these. This is likely going to get boring, everybody. Okay, turn this back down to here. Anyway, a silly, fun way to play with pyro. All right, I'm gonna call it on this one since we started demonstrated this last week too. Oh man. Yes, thank you all for tuning in. Time is really flying on the stream today. I hope that is as meant to be as funny as I feel. I'm in this mortified state of having all of my friends trapped in the upside down, and I can't let them speak to the stream. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. My goodness, what are we at? We're almost an hour and a half into the show. I feel like this was pretty darn fun. Is there anything else that people are interested in seeing on this spooky Friday the 13th? Or have we beaten this dead horse long enough? Does it need to be put out of its misery? You all in the chat, let me know. Let's see, Michael is shouting at me from beyond to grab a Mixamo character, which I will do right now. Okay, Mixamo. Do you remember who I was? No! I was not logged out for more than 24 hours. Are you kidding me? Put some of your AI on identifying how recently someone logged in Adobe. That would be max cool of you. So it seems like the big thing from Sneaks that everyone was talking about was the whatchamacallit, the Project Fast Fill. This thing. I'm pulling this up. I don't think anyone can hear it, but here is, I think, the exciting thing from Adobe Max that everyone liked was that we figured out how to have generative fill for video, right? Everyone went bonkers over this. And where's the other example? Drawing a little thing around that and generating a tie on this piece of footage. All such exciting stuff that's coming down the pipe. But if you try to log into Mixamo, sorry, it's again, was it Justin last week who said the best thing ever? All right, I'm going to load up a very simple character here. What how about this? A mouse. I'm going to grab this doozy character just because it's on a unique shape. Yeah. And let's look for some kind of a running. Isn't there a running in a circle? Oh, no, I'm in character mode still. All right, Michael suggested that we get a Mixamo character and do something exciting with smoke with it. Okay, that's less exciting motion than I thought it was going to be. That might be kind of cool. I kind of want a looping kind of thing. Tour. We've got salsa dancing. Let's try scary again. Let's just do this walk and we'll do it. Should we do it in place? No, we'll have it over some time. Let's add a few frames to this since it's one of the looped ones that you can basically just add a longer frame to. All right, let's download this silly little mouse. We're going to try using a silly little thing, a little particle emitter of sorts out of this. So let's save this scary clown walk into today's folder. Let's bring it here into Cinema. Animated elements, and are you still downloading? Come on. Download faster, Mixamo. All right. Don't care about the textures or anything. Well, we've got this character. Let's add, wait, do I still have this collider plane? Let's just copy the collider plane over here. We'll make it a little bit bigger like that. And then this character, let's go ahead and say, let's make you some pyro emitter of sorts. On your pyro emission, I'm going to hide the object that is you. I'm going to go to your pyro tag and let's see, I want for this pyro to have, do I need to unlock the takes to be able to modify it? Oh, okay, yeah. Since it was a Mixamo character, it had the takes, the transformations locked button there. So I unlocked that so I can now access this stuff. For the temperature, I'm just going to set the temperature to like 1,000 instead of 4,000, and I'm just going to press play and see what happens. Excellent. That should keep it in kind of a smoky realm, not too hot. And then here in the pyro output, I'm going to say the buoyancy for the temperature should be negative, so it falls down from them like that. There we go. And I'm going to also hide the skeleton. And now I've got a cool, cloudy gummy bear monster thing walking around. Okay, I kind of dig this. Let's go to the pyro settings and play with the voxel size. Let's see how upset the computer gets at me for a voxel size of 3 pixels. Now, keep in mind for any of these simulations that you do, you can set your voxel size to something that's giving you a nice bit of output, and then export this VDB so you can get do some cool redshift shading on it. I just want that walking motion to go on longer. This feels like a really cool force to be coming to destroy a city. Let me look at its temperature settings again. Maybe I'll turn down the temperature even more to like the 500 realm. Let me see what that gives. There we go. Now we're almost exclusively in smoke. Look how fun this is. Just a free little Mixamo download emitting pyro in here. It's pretty cool. Now, I wonder if you also had the simulation tag of collider on the body geometry. What would that do? Would that give you extra smoke interaction that's falling and bouncing off of the shape as if it's moving through it? Kinda. That's pretty cool. And speaking of weird, cool things you could do, I'm actually curious if you had, if you went to Moves by Maxon and you had some lovely, oh, looks like I only have this one face capture anymore. What happened to my old face captures? I don't have a scary one. I'm just going to go with this one. This is This is my landing on the ground and then looking happily around like this, all excited. And that may look familiar because it is, in fact, this thing. All right, watch the performing on this velociraptor right here. Looks down, jumps up, little eyebrows, looking around. That's all being ported over from this very silly moves by Maxon capture that I did, which is fun. So now we can act out what we want the velociraptor to do, and it'll do that for us. Check out our I can't remember what it was called episode. It has a picture of a singing velociraptor on it. But I'm going to take this geometry and see what happened. You know what? Let's see. What time is it? We have some time. I'm going to capture a new motion that is less silly here for that specific purpose. All right. I'm going to do some exciting acting, everybody. So here we go. I've got my Moves by Maxon app right here opened up. I'm going to point it at my face here, and we're just going to do a big something scary face. All right. And here we go. We're going to go. Rawr, rawr, rawr. Ow. Hi. All right, we're going to do that. And then we're going to jump over here. I'm going to send that to the computer. And now I think that I can just open up Moves by Maxon. It'll be right here. Import that. Let's delete the one from the other day. Now I have this exciting mesh moving around, which is pretty cool. And I'm going to try adding my pyro tag to this simulation tag, pyro emitter. Let's have it be let's also add, let's see, let's go to my pyro settings. Let's say the temperature is...
We are not seeing your screen, sir.
Oh, we're not? Oh, yeah, I forgot. I didn't switch over. Thank you, Michael. I forgot to switch back to this screen. I replaced the more with the eyes, says Frigby. Oh my goodness. How am I gonna get through this? Here, you know what? We'll add some eye expression to this that'll hopefully satisfy that a little bit. All right. So here we go. We've got this little silly performance. Oh whoa. Oh, I'm going to need a much smaller voxel size for this. Let's try size 2. And then let's go to our output here, and we'll say set timeline to frame count from the Moves by Maxon app. And then here on my Pyro output, I'll say the voxel size is 2 centimeters. And on my Pyro tag, I'm going to say that the thickness is just 2 centimeters. And hopefully that gives me a reasonable compromise. Oh, and I also don't want to see my face. Okay, we're getting something. It's too small, or rather the voxels are too large to get detail off of this shape yet. So I'm going to turn the voxel size down to 1 centimeter, and now let's see what we've got. Okay. Now we have a bit of definition going on. Maybe I do need to turn the thickness up on the emitter. I really don't want it to have to be... I don't want the thickness of the object to distort the smoke too much. And right now I'm just using the default, built-in pyro-looking shaders. So let me see if I can just rotate the whole thing around a little bit to benefit from the lighting here. Okay, so we've got something going on. You can see some of the shape of my face. We need less thickness. And then the voxel size. Let's see. Michael's suggesting that we mess with the noise. Let's mess with the noise. Okay. Let's see the relative scale. What if it were much lower? Relative scale. Wait. Now, if I turn it to 0, do I get just a very smooth, boring output from that? What do I get? Okay, pyro output. First of all, I'm going to go to the pyro scene, and I want the density to disperse faster, so it's not taking so long. And then I want to go to my buoyancy and set it to 0 on these things, and so it's just sort of like a hovering around bit. Okay, interesting. I'm not quite getting there yet. Okay, 0.5 centimeter pixels. Basically, this is a smaller object than I thought. Okay, smaller object than I thought, and the thickness is too high on the object. Okay, let's just say 1 centimeter thick. Okay, now we're getting a little bit of definition from the face itself. So yeah, we're somewhere in between that, whatever the Voldemort signal and the mummy here. Now, in theory, if I scale my moves by Maxon thing, couldn't I turn the voxel size up and then scale the whole... Let me see. I don't remember if you can scale the moves by Maxon object like that. Yes, you can. Yes. This isn't what I wanted at all, but isn't it though? I have no idea what I've done now. You know what? I don't care. It's perfect. I'm gonna make this bigger. I'm going to delete the eyes. And then I'm going to hide this again, and let's just see what we got going. No, it didn't keep the resized thing. Here we go. Okay, we're getting a little bit bigger now. Okay, now what if the face also pushed the smoke? Is that helpful? Or is that to slow it down too much? This is really bizarre. If it wasn't clear that I don't know what I'm doing, hopefully it becomes rapidly apparent. I think that I want some negative buoyancy again, because I kind of dig the waterfall kind of effect of smoke. So let's turn the temperature buoyancy to a more negative number, so it's kind of falling down from the face. That's kind of cool. I don't know what I'm doing, ladies and gentlemen, and anyone in between. This is just a very silly, almost spooky effect, but I feel like it's gone horribly awry, horribly oury. I also now have my lovely dog Bumblebee is hanging out in here with me, but has decided that she's had enough of my Cinema 4D antics. All right, let's let's see. Let's go to our simulation forces. Let's add a bit of wind. I feel like if you're shooting like a music video or something cool, you'd always have wind blowing at your face, and that's what I need for this star power to really shine through. Let's turn this wind around. Whoops. Gotta point it at the face and go to the wind settings. Turn up the wind factor to, let's try 100. Starting at the beginning, is 100 enough? I think I need more. There we go. Okay. All right, now we're getting a little bit more of a cool defined thing out of this. I'm going to go back to my noise settings in Pyro and turn that back up a little bit more again. Turn up the animation speed on the noise. You know, we're almost halfway close to something cool. Yes, it's a bit voxely, but who isn't these days, you know? Pyro output. I'm going to try slightly bigger voxels just to see if I get cooler smoke shapes for just a moment. And no, not really. Okay, well, this was almost neat in the way that I wanted it to be neat, but also a little lame in the end. It's so close to almost something cool. I'm just missing a few good components that could really bring it to life, which is why, as we move forward on the show, we'll definitely have the input of better people, and we'll even let the people who are on the show hosting it speak during the show. This is kind of cool. I kind of like where this is landing now. I'm going to see what happens if I turn off my collider tag, so I'm not trying to have the mesh push any of the smoke around. It's pretty neat. If I output this VDB and then render it with Redshift, I could actually get something pretty cool out of this. You could probably even find the right point where you could get the smoke to look a little bit like hair. Like if it were pointing a little bit down and back like this. So I just had this nice like ponytail of hair. It's pretty cool. It's very clear that you could get some really cool results if you cache this whole thing through. And one of the new advantages of being able to cache a cool simulation like this is being able to up-res the exact simulation you have instead of having to sacrifice losing that whenever you try to switch to a different size of something. But here is, I think, where I'm going to leave everyone today on this lovely Friday the 13th with this silly smoky pyro head that I'm going to learn a little bit more about how I could render this out in a cool-looking fashion, and also maybe some ways to reduce the overall look of just the voxeliness up here is a little bit high. I would want to try to improve that as time went on. But let's see. One last question from Justin Leduc is, what happened to office hours? Are we still doing them? We would love to do them. I think that what has happened recently is we had a very busy summer for everybody. And so our office hours were us desperately trying to get the show together and a little bit less narratively entertaining, like when we're trying to solve a problem or something like that. But I don't think office hours has gone away. I think it just will be an opportunistic thing, just like now. So stay subscribed, stay tuned in, and maybe I'll I'll turn on. Let's see. I've got to turn off the simulation. It's kind of killing me right now. But maybe I can next week show a little preview of the intro that I had hoped to show today, because it would have mildly been on theme. But I think it'll be even cooler if it's done properly. So anyway, with that, happy Friday the 13th, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into VFX and Chill. I believe that next week we are here with Territory Studios to show off some cool stuff. So please tune in for that. They'll have some lots of cool materials to show off. And I think the gang is back. The gang is all back around next week. Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely weekend. And we'll see you all next week on VFX and Chill.